Hello and welcome to episode 77 of Comics with Stevey D. And today we're going to take another spacewalk. Spacewalk number 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix in some facts about our space exploration. The Soviets launched the Sputnik satellite in 1957, starting the space race with the United States. The U.S. launched Explorer number 1 satellite in January 1958. It was the first satellite to carry complex scientific instruments. First animals in space were fruit flies in 1947 via a captured V-2 rocket sent up by the Americans. First mammal in space was a dog named Lakia on Sputnik 2, a Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov took the first spacewalk March 18th in 1965. That's a lot of facts to start. I'm kind of weave them facts in between the books. And that first book was Pisces number 1 from 2015, cover art by Johnny Christmas. And here's my second book. I'll throw a few more facts. A robotic remote-controlled spacecraft, the Lunar Orbiter 1, went around the moon looking for landing sites for later Apollo missions in 1965. NASA's first manned spaceflight to orbit the moon was Apollo 8, December 1968. The heroic crew was Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Andrews. We took an unmanned spaceship, the Mariner 4, to take photographs of Mars from 6,000 miles away in 1965. Okay, and this book here, Faster Than Light number 7 from 2016, cover art by Brian and Gerard Van Dyke. And the next book is really interesting. It's a big oversized comic book. There we go. This is Sky Masters, the Space Force, number 1 from 1991. It's the artwork from that series by Jack Kirby and Wally Wood. And it has a biography of the early days of Jack Kirby's success, failures, and a little insight about Kirby, the artist that created so many wonderful illustrations and stories and characters in his career. And I just want to show you, he didn't start out on top. He had to work his way up just like everybody. And here's a picture of him, Jack Kirby, from 1939. He went into the military afterwards. And the book has a pretty 3 or 4 page biography of the two men showing samples of their art. And the book is black and white and color, which is very rare because you never see the two formats mixed together. And that's a sample of the artwork. Let's put another book up. Oh, I love these books, the next couple of books. All right. Soviets launched the first space station, Salyut, in April 1971. The U.S. put Skylab up in May 1973, our space station. The space shuttle program lasted 30 years, from 1981 to 2011. Okay, and I got some cool books right here. if I can find the information. This is Ministry of Space, created by Warren Ellis, Chris Weston, and Laura Martin. These are beautiful inside and out. This is what is known as the comic book trifecta. Great cover, great interior art, and great story. And I'm just going to open one and show you how good the artwork is in these things. Any page will do. Here's a landing on a planet on the moon, I guess. I just picked it at random. Just beautiful artwork throughout. The English started the space race in this reality, in this comic book. And I'm trying to tell you, I think this was from 2001. And they're Image Comics. Here's one I showed in the past. Let me give you some facts on this flying saucer one. Mars, the red planet. The Soviets and the U.S. landed unmanned spacecraft on Mars in 1971, separately. First American Mars rover, Sojourner, hit the Martian surface in 1997. The International Space Station was put up in orbit in 1998 at a cost of $150 billion. You could buy all the comics on Earth for that. The first manned mission is planned for 2023 with missions every 26 months. The reason for that's the proximity of Earth and Mars are the closest every 26 months. All right. And this is Mr. Monster's Super Science Atom Age Sci-Fi. And here's the remake of that story. But I really like the saucer, the original from 1950. All right, let's look in the book a second. Let's put Primordial up here. I love this story. I showed it last episode. I just love, these are the first mammals in space. It's a complex story. I already went into it. Okay. While we take our spacewalk through comics and listen to this story, we have to start at the beginning with Orville and Wilbur Wright's first powered flight on December 17, 1903. It lasted 59 seconds and traveled 852 feet on the beach at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. The Mars helicopter Ingenuity carries a small piece of that first aircraft as it flies around Mars. And I think that is the greatest homage to the Wright brothers. Soon after the Wright brothers' aviation breakthrough, aircraft were weaponized in the wars of the first half of the 20th century until the present. It wasn't until World War II that the Germans, under the scientific leadership of Dr. Werner von Braun and his team, developed the V-2 rocket, the first ballistic missile that was launched in 1942. The rocket is the forerunner of modern-day spacecraft. Now here's a couple of personal notes. Primordial, I loved it. While we're taking our space walk, think about these things. I have often looked up to the heavens, wondering what it is like out there, imagining the thrill it would be to soar above the earth, looking down at God's creation, our wonderful blue world, the excitement of taking a spacewalk, using a jetpack, journeying through space to our moon, other planets, the galaxy. We would get there in a spacecraft that was magnificently engineered and constructed by the finest of our minds and the steadiest of our hands for our ride through space. And once we got there, what we do, And this is First Trip to the Moon, Space Adventures. Let's put some more facts in there. The Hubble Space Telescope was the first one to show us the universe or the galaxies in ways that we've never seen before. The new James Webb Telescope is up there now, a much improved version, and it's just discovering worlds that are watery like Earth. One day there will be space tourism. Finally, a very interesting fact. Captain James T. Kirk, William Shatner, went up into space October 13th, 2021, the oldest human being to go into space at 90 years old. Now, I think it's great that Captain Kirk got to be one of the first tourists up in space. And I saw an interview with him afterwards, and he said it was thrilling, he loved it, but he was really sore when he got back. It's still a stress on the body, the takeoff. You know? Here's Buck Rogers at the 25th century. It's a beautiful painted cover. And what will we do when we get to space? How about working on a space station? Maybe we could live under a dome on the lunar surface. Possibly we could be on a generational ship, which these heavy metal Darkwing comic books, these are oversized. These are from 2020 by Matthew Medney and art by German Punz. And I got a couple of them and a couple more in my boxes. So a generational ship, if I'm going from point A to point B and it takes 500 years, human beings aren't going to last in one lifetime. So they reproduce on board until they get to the new Earth, the new world they're going to, their destination. Finally, we could develop warp speed, or transverse wormholes or stargates, maybe even interdimensional travel. It's all up to the minds and the initiative of the human beings. As our spacewalk winds down, I just want to say, I grew up in that era. I was born in the late 50s, and I grew up as space exploration developed. The news and television coverage of the space program and the space race was covered extensively. The media even developed worldwide coverage via satellite of events in the 60s. Like the wide world of sports was the first time I ever heard about satellites, via satellites. I soaked that up with fascination, and it led to my interest in space-themed comic books and sci-fi literature. Yep. Now, I got my little wrap up, and then I'm going to show you one more thing. I hope you enjoyed our trip through outer space. It's time to end the spacewalk. Enter or board the ship. Strap in and fire the retro rockets for re-entry to good old terra firma and come back to reality and do some yard work. Okay? So I got a story. This is Spaceman. And I love this comic. And when I got it, it was messed up. And I did some restoration on this. First of all, this helmet, I put labels on them and colored them. It had a big 20 cents in black marker. Just like this marker here, I left it there. And this was scribbled out. The P and this spacecraft here, and I had to do the same thing. And so that's my second attempt and most uh, drastic that I've ever done on a comic book. But it didn't turn out too bad, and I love the theme, and it's from 1971, and I got it from my comic shop, and so I've been satisfied with everything but this book. So I called them up, and I told them what was going on, and they looked, and they said they had two books, the one they sent me and another one that was in worse shape. So they gave me a credit for the book, a little under $4, and on my next order, and I get to keep this book. So that they were very good with their customer service. So my science fiction space show is over. And I want to thank everybody that's been watching these videos. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I just mix fantasy and reality together. But you got to believe in your heart that the men that developed space travel had to be influenced by Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and comic books and Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and all those things that predated the space race. It put the idea in their heads, and everything that comes into reality starts with an idea. Thought is so powerful it can manifest a trip to the moon. And later on, in 2030 something, we're going to go to Mars if we haven't already gone. That's the secret space program. I don't know much about it, but I know it's probably real. If they could send a vessel to Mars in 1965, that's a lot of years ago. So who knows what they've been doing up there in space. Only the very few can go up there. Neil Armstrong, 1969, and Buzz Aldrin were the first human beings to walk on the moon. And I remember staying up late at night with my grandpa, I was 9, and watching the event unfold. And then reruns of the landing over and over. The Eagle has landed. This is one small leap for man and one giant leap for mankind, and all that stuff. So, while I collect my future space covers and books, I just want to wish you all well. And if you look up to the heavens and imagine the glory of everything, just remember that it all starts with the thought.